So hi everybody and welcome back to Unreal Engine 5 full game tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 27 and in this video of course we continue with the save game in this video. We already talked about save game, that's why I will just create it very fast and don't go too much into the explaining mode. So I will just create it and show you how we create this, because we have to set up the save game. We just decide where we use the save game, and we are not finishing the save game in detail because we have to set up a score system as well, which we used in save game later, but more in a moment. Before that, let's check our time again, because I said I won't be finished before this game jam starts, and yes, it's very bad. In 90 hours I should be finished with this game, then this game jam starts. And I hope you joined this game jam, and you can see here are over 2,000, almost 2,500 players already here who are joining them. I will join them only to get the free assets, so I will not really participate in this jam. But you as a starter, you should participate with all your might. And here one tip, by the way, if you participate in this jam, don't waste time at start. Try to finish all the work at the first day and in the second day and max the third day. So don't make it like me here in my 40 days, all push in the last one. That will not work out and you will be not finished. But later more. In this video we concentrate us more to finish our save game. Let's go fast to our overview. You can see we finished this block. We are still in this gameplay block, but that's the biggest block, and all the other things are just are integrated to this gameplay block here. And in the gameplay block we finished all this kind of stuff. We are here now in this block here. It's the gameplay coding, and in our last video we finished this character collision setup so that we can die. There is a little bit more to it perhaps, but I think that's okay. And now we set up the save game in this video, because when we die we have a score and we want to save this score, compare it with our high score. Let me show you this. So when I start here the game, you can see we have, let me pause this, we have here a score here in the middle. This is the actual score, and here is the high score. This high score we will set lower so that it's good at we can compare our score and then override the score if our score is higher. And then all the time when we start the game, we have to save it if it's higher as a high score, and then all the time when we start the game again, that we can compete to our high score here. That's so the very basic setup. And so I will make only one store variable actually here, just this score here. This lives I will not store. The reason for that is you will just have all time when you start the game 2 lives. Of course, this is just a basic. You can later, if you have time, change this like you want, but right now that's my plan. And let's go into the save game. And you can see I have already created that what we called, but let's start from start, and I explained this here step by step again. And you can see here is also a little bit code which we have to fill later when we create the save game. But first let's start from the start. First, what we do, we want user save game, and when we want user save game we have to set up it. How to set up? First of all, you have to choose where to load the game and where to save the game. So these are mainly done by the game mode. So, but in our case we have 2 game modes. I have a main menu game mode and I have a gameplay main mode. And well, I don't know, so I think we can do this all with the gameplay game mode, which is here where we actually play the game, where we get the high score, because my main menu game mode can load something, but not really in this little game here. So I will not use it there. So I will set up in my game mode, gameplay game mode, which is our gameplay section. Here I go to my gameplay, here I go to world settings, then you find this gameplay. Here I saved my game mode here. I open up this game mode, and in game mode we already created some code. You can see we have here created an event being gameplay. This is new, and the stuff here you can see we already set up when we created our game mode. We set up the default setups, like you can see the camera from scene. We get this here. Use the camera, then we set a use case and show mouse and create a gameplay widget and all this default setups we made with the game mode. And now I said, okay, when the game mode starts, and the game mode will start with this event begin play, but there is also other things like pre-construct. We forget this, not so important for us as a very simple game. At a begin play, the first thing what I want to do is load a game. And in this section, I will use first time a function instead of what I do here most time, just code in here. And the reason for that is this code setup, you can see it's a little bit longer, and the bigger it goes, then I prefer functions. But for this little things here, this little codes here, I make not a separate function all the time. That makes no sense for me. For all this show mouse cursor, create a widget, you can see function is very nice for an overview, because you can then write this, and then click on it. But no, I'm not creating for all things a little function. But in this case, you can see, like I said, this becomes big, it's very long, and this is just a function for its own. That's why here we create a function, and the same goes for the other one. Here I make a function too. It's not too big, this save game, because we have a load game and we have a save game, but still I made here a function because I think that's a very nice place to use functions. The other things, not, because it's too little the code and waste function for that. You can use still functions for all things. Again, collapse all things if you like. For style, I like this one. So with that said, and you can see I have here another node here. What is this another node? It is called event end play. This one means when your game mode here stops playing, I want that the progress, what we have, in our case it's just the score, should be saved. So it doesn't matter what the score is, we will save it. But we will set up the score save in the next video, because in this video I want just set up the load game setup and save game setup, and in the next video we set the score, how we compare it to our high score, and then save it here. It's not too difficult, but I want not mix up this two different kind of setups. So let's get started. We start with the load game, and this load game we already discussed in one of my videos. You can see this was there where I tried to explain you what happens when we create a load game and so on. And in this video, I skip this explanation. I jump into the creation because I already explained it. I hope you know what it is, and I will explain it anyway when I create here this line. So first of all, let's go back one step. And I show you what I did so far. First of all, I go here to the function. Here we are in event graph. Then we go here to the left side, here to the function section. You click here plus, and you create two functions. One I called load the game. Here, this is at event begin play, and here at the start point. That's also a very important part where you load the game. I load it here at the start because this is the first thing what I want to do. And later, again, I click here again plus, and then we create another function, and I call it save the game. So, and then you can drag and drop this here, this function connected here, and have it. And now after you did this, then we open up this function, and now we create this, but I create this from scratch, a little bit fast, but very simple. So when you open up this one, you have just this node here. And all the other stuff we make a little bit fast. So first of all, what we need is we check if a save game exists. We already talked. We have to check a save game, and we can't check this because oh, this is just a slot check. We check just if a save game exists with a slot name. So we already talked about this. So you drag out right here, the save game exist, and then it asks here a slot name, and this slot name at the first time when you start it will not exist. What you do is then promote this to variable. Here right click, promote this to variable, and I called it save game slot name. Here, that's the first step what I did. All right, that's good. Let's copy this one here. Because I want not to create a new one, I just show you what I did. Then the next step is we check if this node here is just checking if this slot name is valid. It means if there is actually the slot name, and we have now, after you promoted this one to a variable, you compile and then you write here the slot name which we will create later. So this one you can set blank at start because we will check a slot name, but you can already think a slot name if you want and write it here. Important is later this creating a slot name in the section here, and here we will provide the slot name. This is the first time when we create it, but later more. So let's go. This node is just checking this condition here if it exists. If it, then we can use a branch, because condition means all the time using a branch. Let's branch it. Branch means I check if there is here this red line here checks if this slot name exists, and if it exists, it says yes or no. If it says no at the start, it will say no. I mean, when you start the first time the game, it will say no because we have to create it at the first time. So we go here to the false state first, and then later the true state when we have one, when we start the game the second time. So the false state, so at start we have no slot name, so we make the save create save game object. Okay, we create a save game object, create save game object, and here we need to create something new. This create save object asks for a create save game object, and a save game object is just a blueprint which is a save game. So we have to create this. So we go out of this first, we compile save, we go out, we go to our folder, we go to our game, and you create here a new folder. Right click here, new folder, and call it perhaps save game. Here I call it, you don't have to do this, but I call it. And then what you do is right click here, you click blueprint, and then you can write here. Here are the main common blueprints, but here you can go here to this drop down to all classes, and then you write here save game, and then you can see here is a save game. You select this, and here we have a save game object now, and we call it, for example, I called it as v_save game object. Let's call this, you can call it what you like, save game object 2. I call it this time because I already have one. And that's it. You save this, save selected, and this is the save game object. This save game object we will use later when we save data in it. For example, our high score. I won't save my high score later in, but this time I set it not up. I just create this one here. So then we are back to our game mode where we say, okay, we try to load from game. We asked if there is a slot at start. No, there is not a slot, and I have here this, I create then a save game object, and then you can see you can create now the save game object which you just created. I have two because I already created here on top one, another one. So you select the save game object here after you select this one. Okay, then what you do is we need a reference to the save game object because this one is all time use. So what you can do is just simple here, after you selected this one here, first select the save game object, then click here, right click, promote to variable, and call it what you have. I call it ref for reference underscore, and then this name of the save game as for save game object 2 in this case. All right, this is my reference for this one, so I know it's a reference, and here is the whole name of the object which I am referring to. That's okay, and then compile, save, and then the next step is here you can see a very weird comment, and this comment says just later we will save here at this line data. So which means if I set up my high score, my comparison, and then all this setup coding, then I will get this high score here, and then I will save the data when I have the high score variable. Right now I don't have it. That's why I just make here a placeholder for later setup. We continue. What we are doing is just a save game to slot now. So we make the next step. The next step is here, save game this slot. Why we make this one? Because here we are creating actually the slot. Save, we call this node save game to slot. And this save game to slot name, you can see, is asking, first of all, what this is asking for the save game object. The save game object is actually that what we created right now. You get your save game object, the right one. In my case, it's the second one. You get it and you can connect it directly in it or make it not so effectively like me. And then you connect it anyhow here. And then here you define, because it's the first time we create this, we call this save game. Here we define our slot name, which we will use all time later here and later in other places as well. Here is the slot name, and important is this slot name must be all time written right in other places as well where we use it. I show you. First of all, let's find a slot name. I call this save slot 2, for example, because I have already save slot 1. I call it save slot 2. The best thing is you just copy this one, and now this one is almost finished. What we do is, you can see here at start I said we create a save game slot name, something like this. And this one, okay, this one was copied from there. You can create here another one if you want. You can make here, let's make this here promote to variable and call it here, not a local variable, but local is even better. Normally, normally local variables are all time better than global variables, but yeah, it's good. Let's use the local variable here, but we get irritated. That's why I don't want this local. Let's put it to not local. Okay, now I kick it first. I want not it local. Promote it to variable. And the reason normally local is in general better because it's more encapsulate code in programming, so that it cannot mix up with naming collisions with other things, but here it's not so important. And then you call this one, for example, what you like, save, in my case, save game slot name. I make a 2 because I already have here a save game slot name. And important is this slot name is, like I said before, it's asking if you have created this one, and compile, save, and provide now this slot name which we create here the first time. Here, copy this one and write it here in front, this one, because this is the check. And that's the first line. It's finished. And here what we can do, what I did here in top, is just a print check. So when we call it for the first time, we can print out something like created first time. So that I created, called it, or you can say called it first time. I just make a check. That's not so important now, this print, so we kick anyway. And so the next line is, this was the call for the first time. And later, let's say we play the game again. And when we play the game again, then this node will check again if this slot exists. And this time, because it's the second time, this slot will exist, which we have here defined in the save slot. And that's why we need now the true line, because then we set up this what should happen when it's true. What is happening? This time we load game from slot because we have now a slot, because this slot exists. So the next node is just load game from slot, load game, oops, write it right, load game from slot, and here it's this one here, we load it. Important again, here the right slot, you write it here, or better just because we saved it in a variable. Here it's my save game slot name, and I just used here this variable name because I saved it there, and that's nice. And you can make here a little bit with double clicks here a reroute node, so it looks a little bit better and more visible. And then we continue. Yeah, so this is the first step. And And this user index you can skip. Right now we have only one. It's hour, so a 0 is all time right. And then we need cast this slot to our save game object. The save game object we created, let's make this cast. All right, in my case I have 2, so I have to cast the right one. Cast to SV, and then you can see you select your created save game object. And the save game object, like I said, here we save our data later. So in my case, the high score. And here we need again a reference, and actually use the same reference which you created here already. So you don't have to make here another reference. So I created here this reference save game object already down, and here I reuse it and set. So I reuse this one here. This is this one. And now I have a reference again because this one is assigned to this one. And now the last step is, again, you can see here again a weird box. Let's copy this one as well here. Paste this here, and this weird box says from this point on you will load data, which means you use this reference here. You can see, and then you load data, and load data means you get, for example, later we get our high score, and from this object here, from this save game object, and put it in our variable which we can use in our game here, because the save game object is on the slot and we need it in our game, and we will do this later. So that's it. That's the setup which you have. I forgot to comment all kind of things, but I think I skipped this commenting because we are not finished. Okay, of course you should comment now all steps here again. I use my first setup here again. This is the same, the first and second. Here I have to clean up later, so I don't waste time. You saw my time is a little bit very limited here. And here again I have here a print string, so we can check it just for test purposes, for development purposes, if this one is loaded at the second time. And this kind of stuff we can check it. For example, you can now start your game, and here I first loaded because it's not the first time this code is running. To make it first time, very important, you go here, just for example right click this one, and then go show in Explorer, or open up just your game project Explorer, show in Explorer, and then you open up your game. And in my case, let me show you this one first. So here, this is my, you can see my, it says here mobile game component. You can see this is my mobile game component, and then you go to mobile game component. This is your project, and or you, of course, with your name, your project name, and in project name you go to saved. Careful, not content. You go here out of the content in your project folder, and then you have all this kind of stuff here, and you go to saved. And in saved, there you have again other things, and we are interested in this save game. This save game is connected to our slot. This here is our slot name, which we set up here, which we created the first time. And for test here, at this point, which we created the first time. And for test purposes, to see if this line is working, what you can do is just delete the save game, and you can just delete it. Here I delete it, and now I can start this game, and we should read now this print message. No, not this one here, created first time. So I start, and here I created first time. Yes, so the first time is loaded, and let's start this one again for test purposes. And the second time it should say here loaded or something like that. Yes, first loaded. All right, this is working. So at least till here it's working. Later, like I said, we set up this score, the values which we will save and load later when we set up our score. But now there is one more step here. That was just the load game setup. We need also a save game setup. Why? What is the save game setup actually? Here, wait a minute, let's show this one. This load game is also saving here at the start some values. When we go here the first time, but careful, this one is just more, let's say, more a creation the first time a slot, which means this setup is only triggered one time, and that is the first time. But we need, of course, trigger the game, save game later, all time too, when we started already. You can see this one is now loaded, and when I have here a new high score and I quit the game, I need to save this as well, and this one is not triggered here. And so what we have to do, one solution is you go back to your event graph, to your game mode. That was here event begin play, and now we create here the node event end play. So right click, write event end play, and it should pop up, and then you connect here your second function, which I call save game, and now we set up the save game. Interesting is the save game is exactly similar to this one, so it's very easy to follow. And let's go in. So let's, if you have this one, save game, double click, and I explain it from here. As you can see, it's really similar to the other one, so let's make it here. What you do is first here create save game object, and this create save game object, we know which one it is. This is the one which you created just now. You create save game object where we save, where I said we will save our scores. And so in my case, I have two. This last in this video, I created this one as for our save game object too. So this one here, you use again a reference, and you can see I have here all time the reference. So I reuse the reference because it's all time the reference. In this case, set this reference, so I don't create another variables for this one because it's all time the same. I just use it, and here it's the save game ref save game object 2, and now I can use this reference here. You can see here again this weird thing. Let's copy this and make this here, and it means just that you will now save the data. For example, in my case, if I had, like I said, I have to set up the high score, and then I get the high score level here, and then I can save the high score to my save game object, but we have to make a variable in our save game object. Perhaps I can show you this one as well here. Oh no, I make this in the next video, but I show what I mean. And the last thing, of course, we set here save game to slot. Game to slot, so like the other one, and here we use again this object here. You connect here the save game object, and you specify which slot you want to save. So slot name, it's again the one which you have before. Of course, you can use here again this save game slot name when you have saved it here, or you just write it, or normally you have saved it here. You can use this one here. And this case, it should be save slot 2. So that's this setup, so very simple and very similar to the other one which we have talked here. The only difference is here, this one is just the first time created, it creates this one, and the other one here, it will probably overwrite this one. It's overwriting with this one what we have. Yeah, with that said, that's finished here, and I use again the first one. I will clean up this offline because I doubled here code, unnecessary code and so, but this is just for test purposes. And yeah, and commenting I do also offline, not wasting time for that. And the next thing what I wanted to show you is we can't test the save game. We will test this later when we have a score. We could make a dummy test, but we skip this as well. And now I show you one more thing, the save game here. I open up the save game, and you can see if I open up the save game object, in this case I should show you with the second one here. I created the second one, but they are the same actually. So if you open up your save game object, then you have here just a normal blueprint almost. There is only no viewport because we are saving just data in it, right? So you can set up your function macros, but we are actually interested in only variables because normally you set up only data. Data means just variables which you want save and score. For example, I will save here high score. This was the only thing which I want save later, high score. Then I set it to the right type. It's an integer. I compile, and I can set this at start perhaps 10 just for fun. And this high score I want load later when I start my game here instead of 1000, I once set it to 10, and then later we set up our high score here, comparisons and all this kind of stuff we make in the next game, and then we save this here in this data with our save game set up here. This save game here setup will save this automatically then in this data, and it will automatically load later the high score again, and we can try to beat it. So that's the plan, and I think that's all for this one. And yeah, if you have any questions or any complaints like old time, write it in the comments. My time goes down, and yeah, with that said, have fun, never give up, and see us in the next video. Bye.